All right.
I think we should better let them know that when they come on.
I will. And then, so Zara, we're going to have 2 votes today, remember? So you have to just capture it in the minutes that there'll be a motion. There should be a second, and then there should be a vote. I will. Twice today. And then, so Zara, we're going to have 2 votes today, remember? A little bit of live delay.
Oh, okay.
David's in. Admit. Okay. Hey, Chair Velasquez.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm good. How are you doing?
Excellent.
We are we're already live, so people are coming in, and we'll just get started when we have our quorum.
Sounds good.
Tandy, did you say you had 6 other people in the waiting room?
On YouTube.
Oh, on YouTube. Oh, great.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Guess we should say hello to folks who are joining us on YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to be starting our meeting in a few minutes. Thank you for getting on early. Chair Velasquez, before we start, do you have any questions about our procedural votes? There's only 2.
Yeah. Nope.
Okay, great.
Straightforward. I guess Dr. Dukes will do the first one. I'll do the second one.
I do believe we have to ask for a motion and then a second and then a vote. So I think
I assume. Yep.
Hi, Dr. Dukes.
Hello, how's everyone?
Hi, Dr.
We're
Dukes.
good. We're good.
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 So everyone's on. Are we open to the public already?
We are live and open to the public. We have a few people watching. We welcome them on the YouTube channel, and we're still waiting for many of our meeting attendees to come on before 2 o'clock. They're starting to join now.
Okay, thank you very much. And thanks to those of you in the public who have decided to join us this afternoon.
We've got Subcommittee Chair Pines on. I see Artis has joined us. We have some staffers on. So we're just waiting for the others.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
All right.
All right. We've got folks joining now.
All right.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second so you all have the benefit of seeing. All right.
Good afternoon. This is
Hi, Bridget. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hey, Glenda. Hey, Miriam.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Afternoon, and again, we are live, so that was my delay in responding.
Love technology.
The great thing is that many of us have not had the opportunity to see each other in a while, and certainly all of our communication with one another has been through these technological formats. So I think that everyone is just excited to be able to see the names of colleagues and friends and be able to salute each other as we get on the call.
Yes, ma'am. We've got, looks like we've got Subcommittee Chair Tom Graham joining. That's two of our chairs on with all their team members. Now we have joining Subcommittee Chair Wright is getting on now. So you're at 3 subcommittee chairs, and there is Subcommittee Chair Rosie Allen Herring. She's getting on. And of course, Governor O'Malley is away today, so DCAO Jackson will be presenting for him today. So I believe you have your quorum, chairs Dukes and Velasquez. And you.
Thank you so much, and thanks to all of the subcommittee chairs and the partners and colleagues in this work as we continue to develop a series of recommendations that will absolutely move Prince George's County forward. I'm Charlene Dukes, the co-chair of the Path Forward Task Force, and I'd like to have my co-chair introduce himself.
Dr. Dukes, thank you. This is Dave Velasquez from PEPCO, and pleasure to be with everybody today. And as David had said, it's great to see a lot of faces on the screen as well. And very much looking forward to the conversation today, reading through the material and all the quick win recommendations. My hat goes off to all the subcommittee chairs and everyone on the subcommittees and involved in this to so quickly have come up with so many what look like great suggestions. So I don't want to talk for too long, so we can get into the meat of it and hear about all the great things you've been thinking about. So thanks for being here. Thanks for your work.
And we would remind our listening public that if you have any comments or certainly want to offer some suggestions or recommendations, you can email us, excuse me, at pathforward@co.pg.md.us. That's Path Forward, PATHFORWARD @co.pg.md.us. And we'll certainly repeat that through the meeting. We also want to make you aware of our new landing page, princegeorgesforward.com, princegeorgesforward.com. And the only punctuation is the dot before com. So we'll again remind you of the new landing page and the email address. So maybe without further ado, we'll go ahead and everyone, the members of the executive committee, received the July 8th, 2020 minutes and would like to go through a process now where we can approve the minutes. So do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And second?
So it's been moved by Rosie Allen Herring, seconded by Darrell Pines. Are there any questions? Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none. Would all those in favor on the executive committee please indicate just by saying aye?
Aye.
Any abstentions? And it seems as though we're all in favor of the minutes. So thank you very much for that. And I believe the minutes will also be posted to the landing page, and we'll repeat that again as we continue. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Co-Chair Velasquez, who's going to lead us and the subcommittee chairs through the quick wins. If you all recall, we indicated that we were going to be operating in a time frame that would give us some quick wins, some recommendations we would make by August the 5th, and that's where we are today. And then we have some short-term recommendations that will come later in September, beginning of October, and then certainly some longer-term recommendations that will come forward after that point in time. So Co-Chair Velasquez, I'll turn it over to you.
Dr. Dukes, thank you. The plan is to go through each of the subcommittee with the subcommittee chairs providing I'll say a summary of their quick win recommendations. Everyone should have received kind of the list of those recommendations as either an attachment or a separate attachment. So hopefully you have that in front of you and can follow along. Before I turn it over to Ms. Rosie Allen Herring to start with the Human and Social Services recovery, I just remind folks that when we're done reviewing all of these at the end, the action that we need to take today as the executive committee is to take a vote to recommend to move forward these list of quick wins to the broader task force meeting, which will be on August 19th. And again, if we make changes or amendments to it, when we take the motion at the end, we'll make sure we reflect in that motion any amendments or changes that we've made to this list. The list is pretty extensive, so I ask the subcommittee chairs as you go through it, just to be mindful of the time that we've allocated 15 minutes each. And I know I would love to talk about each of these probably for 20 minutes or a half hour, but we just regrettably don't have all the time today, and certainly can follow up. If you have questions, can certainly follow up with the subcommittee chairs or additional suggestions. Please do that. So without any further comment, I'll turn it over to Ms. Rosie Allen Herring. Rosie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the leadership that you and Dr. Dukes are continuing to offer here. As to be brief, there are several quick wins, or now I think we're referring to them as actions for today in terms of where we may be able to move in a short-term fashion in terms of being able to move some of these things forward. As you know, the subgroups have worked with what we call special focus areas. And for the Human and Social Services Recovery Group, we have 4 special focus areas. 1, addressing equity. 2, integrating data into the work that we need to do. 3, assuming public-private partnerships, as well as working with faith-based and other nonprofit institutions. And 4, identifying individual and family needs in real time. And so for those 4 areas, you have before you 11 short-term actions that we believe can be beneficial and hopefully actualized, of course, at the approval of the county executive. And they range from looking at having a senior living liaison. As you know, from our team, there is great representation, not only from the private sector, but certainly from the public sector. And many of those are subject matter experts who are professionals in the county as well. And so the recommendations range from senior living, having a liaison there to be able to make certain that they're able to bring forth all of the moving pieces that affect our seniors. As a part of our Department of Aging, we know that some of that work is being done, but it's in a disparate fashion, and having that collective body to come together on behalf of that particular constituency would be certainly helpful. We're looking at some of the programs that may need to be expanded that we know are working well, but may be stretched at this time. And so there's an opportunity for us to be able to bring those to bear and be able to look for that cross collaboration with other groups as well. Having a nonprofit and faith-based directory, there are quite a few institutions in this county. We believe that that is a huge constituency for us, and having them be able to work collectively together as opposed to as individual entities, we believe can bring about better and bigger impact at the end of the day. We're looking at having a liaison for food distribution. As shared, when we try to capture the breadth and depth of all that is being done around food distribution as one of the early indicators of where the crisis has had its impact, we found that there are so many different ways that people were looking at food distribution, collectively agreeing that it's clearly a priority, but how we go about distributing food, understanding the needs, understanding the organizations that have the capacity and those that don't, rather than having someone who has large capacity, having someone who has small capacity, have them learn to work together, but having that single source within the county to be able to bring all of those moving pieces together, we think would be beneficial and certainly much more impactful at the end of the day. Looking at, of course, evictions, which is now, of course, a very hot topic in today's news with regards to what's going on, even on the federal level and certainly on the local level. We believe that as the crisis ensues, that will continue to be a huge challenge for us. So again, one of the things that we've also brought up that we believe will be helpful in the go forward is to bring up the notion of equity. Because we know that equity is now, of course, a topic primarily as a result of the social justice issues, we believe that the equity is a topic that should be looked at from a lens of economic, as well as other ways of looking at it other than just quote unquote racial. And so we expect to be able to look at equity across all of the various special focus areas to ensure that how we're looking to bring forth solutions are equitable across to everyone who may need them. And we find that will be beneficial as well. And finally, Mr. Chairman, we also note that there is great collaboration going on even amongst the subgroups. And we expect to work with all of the subgroups, whether it be health recovery, economic recovery, education, and government operations. We believe that there's been quite a bit of synergy, and the information that we've been able to ascertain, we believe that equity across all of those lenses is going to be very necessary in order for any and all of this to continue to be impactful. And we look forward to the work ahead. So again, that's it for us for our human and social services recovery. Again, the 11 items that are there, the ones that stick out, of course, are just looking at our home-based programs, having a food distribution czar, looking at the evictions protections, and certainly looking at a focus on our seniors. That's more of a synopsis, if you will. There is greater detail in each of the recommendations that will be available to you, Madam and Mr. Chair, as well as the county executive for her review, perusal, and approval. With that, I yield back.
Rosie, thanks for that really good summary. Questions, comments from folks for Rosie?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I do have to just acknowledge our liaison and all of those who've worked with us. Madison Gray has been phenomenal from David Sloan's team, and she has been instrumental in making certain that not only our work comes together, but that we are able to understand what the other task force are doing and making certain that there is that collaboration. So I feel the need to certainly be able to share that as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you,
Thank you kindly, Rosie.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I have a question. It's okay. It's okay for a question?
Please.
Yeah, this is Artis. I note that the nonprofit and faith-based service directory, great recommendation. I'm just curious, are we seeking in any way to sort of direct faith-based to meet gaps that we see? I mean, a lot of them are doing different things, and I think having a directory is great, but also the opportunity to sort of direct them to fill gaps. I'm just wondering, was there any consideration to that?
Absolutely, Ms. Hampshire Cowan. There is that great consideration. We do have representation from the faith community as a part of our human services task force group. Reverend Joanne Browning from Ebenezer AME, Reverend Dr. John Jenkins, as well as Reverend Tony Lee, who bring that perspective to the table. What we've been able to ascertain, and I think we all recognize that one of the assets for the county is our faith-based institutions who bring quite a bit, who are also on the ground and have great intelligence around what the needs are and can tell you more quickly, if you will, than for us as a government entity or enterprise, if you will, being able to determine where that need is. As I shared in the last presentation or work group meeting, that we found just in 1 month from the SNAP benefits that are out there. In March, there were 5,200 that applied for SNAP benefits. In April, there were 38,000. That was a 632% increase in application for SNAP benefits alone, just in that short period of time, and certainly not taking into account what's occurred even since that time. So we believe that the faith-based institutions and that entity as an enterprise, if you will, can work to not only fill the gaps, but they bring the intel that helps us shape and form many of the strategies and the way forward. So absolutely. And we hope that by bringing them together, we can create more of a comprehensive look and not just what someone may have a preference for, or someone who may be a part of that particular congregation may have an affinity for. This is an ability to ensure that we're all plugging a gap that exists, that needs, and that we're not over compensating in one area and certainly have a dearth of support in another. So we believe that that will make it a much more comprehensive and well-rounded effort as well.
Great. Other questions for Rosie? Comments? While folks are thinking about that, one question I saw, we have on your list a survey for returning to senior nutrition sites, the faith-based directories we talked about, the current home-based program, I guess, list. And I haven't read through the detailed recommendations there, but have you, for each of those, identified kind of who you think the best one is to actually implement that?
We're, the question, if I understand it, is looking at the home-based programs as well as to be able to assess the seniors' comfort level and being able to return to the centers. Much of that is being done by the Department of Family Services as well as the Department of Aging. And so they, of course, have they have the intelligence as well as the information on what's happening in those roles. We believe it's critical as we think about the way forward and we try to think about what reentry looks like to determine what the comfort level is. I think we all recognize that in the middle of the crisis, one of the most hardest hit constituencies is our seniors, those who tend to have underlying health conditions, who may not have that great comfort level to be able to venture back out. They tend to be more homebound, if you will. So by having the ability to be able to assess their comfort level, continue to determine what their needs may be, it helps us be more effective as opposed to just setting a deadline date, assuming that everyone will come and find that then we have wasted resources and not prepared to meet our seniors where they are.
Great.
And I will, I'll echo Rosie also in reference to the home-based recommendations. I believe there's 3 of them that actually coincide with each other. And a big part of that, and some of the agencies we've identified as key participants and in the implementation process, one of those is the Office of Community Relations, who would be keen enough. They also operate the 311 on the go, which responds to a lot of the community's concerns. A big part of what we wanted to do that was different, or what the SFA leader and the constituents on the SFA wanted to do that was different, was to integrate across not only our agencies, but also nonprofit and faith-based entities throughout the county who are also providing home-based solutions, and bringing those together to create a more communicative process for referring resources and services to the aspects and places of our population in the community that are most vulnerable in real time, and creating a more not only responsive, but proactive and also sustainable system for cross collaboration, not only amongst the county government entities themselves, but throughout the community into the faith-based networks, which, as Rosie pointed out earlier, are also, they may in various situations have their finger on the pulse more than we could at a time. So that's a key aspect of who we see implementing these, and especially for that program itself, is making sure it's collaborative and that everyone has a hand in implementing and keeping lines of communication open.
Thank you. Any other questions for Rosie? Rosie, thank you for the report. Thank you for the work that you've been doing. A lot of great recommendations there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Dr. Wright, we'll move on to you as Chair of the Health Recovery Subcommittee for your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. The Health Recovery Group had a number of specific focus areas that coalesced into 4 domains: health operations, next wave, continuing response, health department infrastructure needs, and then finally, equity, care coordination, and gaps. So I'm going to quickly move through what is a total of 15 quick win recommendations. In the health operations domain, the first recommendation was to leverage the use of SMS texting technology for urgent and important mass communication for Prince George's County residents. There's precedent here. The county executive's office has already leveraged this technology for mass communication, and the recommendation is to expand on that for critical and urgent communications to the public. Second, transitioning the health department's hotline call center to an automated call number prompt system. And this would be to allow for there to be an unplugging of the emergency call centers, call numbers, and to really activate a much more user-friendly hotline. And that's already been in the works even pre the Prince George's Forward effort, and will be executed as soon as possible. Then finally, under health operations, there was also a recommendation to begin a negotiated indirect cost reimbursement agreement. And what that means is currently the funds that the health department receives are not under any kind of negotiated indirect rate, no overhead rate that is applied to these funds. And this speaks to a recurring theme that you'll notice throughout all of the recommendations of support for the health department and a distribution of resources in a way that addresses county specific needs. So being able to establish and get going on establishing a indirect cost reimbursement rate is something that was deemed very important. Under Next Wave Continuing Response, this group of 5 recommendations was really based on lessons learned. We're still coming through, obviously, the first phase of the pandemic. And one of the recommendations was literally to collate a best practices and lessons learned convening of all of the health systems, so that we can memorialize and distribute information in a way that will allow us to be prepared for the next wave. And this one is easily achievable. There is already infrastructure in terms of convenings at the DCAO level and at the health department of the healthcare system, so that we can distribute these lessons learned and learn from our experience. As part of that, a recommendation to integrate the supply chain process in terms of PPE specifically. We have learned coming through this first wave of the pandemic of the need to have all of the key players involved so that we can match the PPE inventory to needs on the ground. This is one of the critical recommendations that the team deemed as a high priority in preparing for the next wave. Also, establishing an MOU for a hotel facility to serve as a quarantine facility as well as a convalescent facility. Again, lesson learned coming through the first wave, where there is great need to have a place for quarantine and a place for convalescence. Having an MOU in place already would facilitate that going forward. And then finally, in this particular grouping with regard to next wave and continuing response, dissemination of a list of available resources so that we all know in real time at all times the status and the progress to trailers, tents, pods, all of the ancillary resources that we have had to stand up in real time, and making sure that we understand where these assets have been distributed and deployed and where they are. Again, a lesson coming out of the experience of this first wave. So several very quick win preparatory needs for our ongoing response and preparing for the next wave. The grouping around health department infrastructure needs. And again, a recurring theme here, how we best support the health department in order to do its work. We learned that the health department has come through a SWOT analysis as recently as 5 years ago. However, it was felt that there needed to be a deep dive into the needs of the health department that would not necessitate a external consultant group, which is what has typically happened before, but rather a group that is supported by subject matter experts and led by internal leadership to really assess the health department's infrastructure needs, particularly in the light of the pandemic and preparing for what's ahead. This accountability would be assured by the internal team and report to the health recovery subgroup or other appropriate level groups as part of the Prince George's Forward process. And then under the health department infrastructure, needs the visibility, transparent visibility with regard to the funding gap, a funding gap infographic. What do we mean by this? Well, we learned that the health department has a preponderance of funding from state and federal resources and grants from those entities, as opposed to funding from the Prince George's County General Fund. This limits the flexibility of the health department to be responsive to county-specific needs. And the group felt that it was important for there to be visibility of the degree of this funding disparity and a high-level view of the gap between the general fund support for the health department's work and that which comes from other entities. So this, again, speaking to the needs to support the health department. As I move to the last grouping here, equity, care coordination, and gaps. Again, there's a lot of overlap here, and I agree with my colleague Rosie Allen Herring that once all of these are coalesced, there will certainly be some synergy and overlap. But our group felt strongly that across the county that anti-racist training for all employees should be a part of onboarding and a recurring process addressing the needs of equity across all government agencies, not obviously just the health agencies. And that there should be under contract provisioning, there should be a very specific accounting for diversity and equity in contracting. Again, critically important in terms of inclusion and balancing the ways that contracts are awarded and distributed. In order to also support our healthcare workforce, the group has also insisted that, which is already going on, by the way, that we identify and implement a infectious disease safety training program for employees. This is something that we do and is happening at the level of the healthcare facilities. But again, emphasizing the importance of protecting our workforce and protecting our citizens as they conduct the care necessary to respond is something that we felt was important. Leveraging telehealth opportunities. One of the things coming through the first phase of the pandemic was that we have learned a great deal about telehealth, and post-COVID, we really want to incorporate those lessons specifically around telehealth access and equitable telehealth access to all of our residents. And then finally, the last recommendation, common theme here, to expand the funding in the Prince George's Healthcare Alliance, which was established to provide healthcare for the insured and underinsured, but presently is underfunded, and to ensure a pathway to expand that funding and provide support for our underinsured and uninsured county residents. So I will stop there. I know that's a lot, moving through 15 recommendations, but I appreciate the time to share this afternoon.
Dr. Wright, thank you. Questions for Dr. Wright, comments? Just quickly, you know, I think as you point out, there will be some of these recommendations, you know, around contracting, training for incoming personnel, you know, protection training that I'm glad you're highlighting, because they're ones that we're going to have to make sure we capture and can be cross-cutting across all of them.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask Dr. Wright just a very brief question? Just with regards to the equity training, if he could expound on that just a little bit more, because I of course, we're all in the equity movement at this moment, but to see how he wants that to be parlayed into the healthcare arena.
Yeah, you know, Rosie, I think this is an example of several of these are designed to get the idea into the queue. I think that we are going to have to, in terms of our short-term and through our short-term and long-term phases of our work, really flesh this out. This is an example of one. We don't have to recreate the wheel here. But Rosie, I look forward to working with your group, but specifically to identify the most appropriate platform for this kind of training for our employees. I think here the emphasis was that it needs to happen. And so I look forward to collaborating with you and others about identifying the most evidence-based and proven approaches to executing on this kind of training in the workforce.
Thank you, Dr. Wright. I look forward to it as well.
Anything else for Dr. Wright? Dr. Wright, thank you for the report. Thank you for the work again, not just you, but all your subcommittee's been doing. And now we'll turn it over to Mr. Thomas Graham, who chairs the Economic Recovery Subcommittee. Tom?
Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. I'd like to first start off with recognizing the hard work of my team members, also with DCAO Rogers and the entire Economic Development Cluster. And apparently Ms. Gray is very good, but I have Brandon Starks, and he's been a tremendous asset to our team, so I need to recognize him. We have, just to get everyone grounded on the focus of our work, we had 7 specific areas of focus: job recovery, workforce development, business recovery, tourism recovery, economic relief, real estate recovery, policy tools and resources, and mass transit guidance. Our team structure, thank you, Miriam, you continue to add to my team. So we have over 20 individuals on our team now. It's a very talented group with a very diverse set of skill sets. We have 2 new team members I'd like to recognize, Mr. Rick Edson from the House Capital Advisors Group, and also Dr. Wayne Wright from Howard University, the president of Howard University. We've split up into 2 groups. Group 1 is job and wealth creation. The second group is real estate and mass transit. And then that group is further split down to specifically work on and drill down into real estate issues and also mass transit issues. 2 co-leads are assigned to each subgroup. So we have 5 quick win recommendations that I'd like to share with you today. They're in prioritized order. So I'd like to start off with the first one, which is shovel-ready projects. We had a really busy month. We had 3 excellent presentations from, well, more than 3 actually. We've had Jonathan Butler from OCS came in and provided us some background with regards to procurement practices and some of the initiatives that he's working on. We had representatives from DPI, and then also from Park and Planning. And then also the consultant for EDC spoke to our group as well. So there's a lot of information to absorb and process, but from all of that, our recommendations came to, as I mentioned before, shovel-ready projects. So what does that mean? Advanced projects that are fully funded. So prioritize permitting process as part of that. Marketing the economic vibrancy of Prince George's County, I think it's important. When you have these projects that the county is working on, we need to celebrate those successes and also let people know that the county is open for business. And those would be identified as projects that are ready for construction in Q4 of 2020. Part of that would include materials which will aggregate key economic metrics, and that concludes shovel-ready projects. Next, I'd like to move into the Green Book, which is our second item. It is a guide for county-based small businesses and county-based minority business enterprises to connect millions of dollars in procurement opportunities within the Prince George's County government. The Green Book would be a digital format that will match capabilities with government opportunities, and also supports efforts. What we want to do something, and this is a new idea, so we're not going to take it. We're not going to take credit for saying it's a new idea. It's something that the county has been working on, but to support that effort, it's important to get more businesses registered in order for them to take advantage of those opportunities. So that's really kind of the emphasis of our work. The county is pushing forward with the concept of the Green Book, but we want to make that process stronger by getting more diverse suppliers enrolled in the process. So that is item number 2. Our third quick win is providing technical assistance. Some of our discussion focused around the fact that a lot of our small businesses really don't know where to go, where to get the resources from in order to continue their operations. So we want to, and they need to do that in order to begin the reopening process. So we want to provide a resource, a central location for them to go to where that information would be available, providing technical expertise, something that's very important, trying to get them access to sufficient capital, keep their operations moving forward. And we want to provide a resource for the businesses, with the entities. You know, it could be housed by a number of agencies or entities, but you know, a good example would be the Prince George's Chamber of Commerce, right? That is a membership organization focused towards the business in Prince George's County, and probably the largest business organization that we have. So that's a possibility. So our fourth quick win is in mass transit. We want to increase bus service in high area needs to support mobility for essential workers and county residents. You know, as we start to reopen, it's going to be critical for our citizens to be able to get to work and get home in a safe manner. So that is something that we need to pay attention to and provide transit that's aligned with regional activity centers. And then our fifth and final is a concept called by Prince George's County, by PGC. So it's an existing initiative. It's running through the Economic Development Corporation. It provides an online listing of businesses in Prince George's County that are currently open, with a special emphasis towards retailers and restaurants, because we feel, you know, the shovel-ready projects are good for the construction industry, but the businesses that are really hurting are those restaurants and retailers. So this is a way to assist them in some manner. So that would be a platform. It's in a website now, so it's kind of more based on kind of when I was growing up. So we need to talk to some young people and get their ideas, whether it be through social media or other platforms and other technologies, whether that be an app, in order to maximize the data that's in, the data that comes in, be able to analyze that. So data analytics comes into play, because at the end of the day, we also want to measure the effectiveness of what we're doing. So with that, I conclude my presentation, and I'm open to any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Questions for Tom? Tom, on the enhanced bus service, that would come through WMATA?
No, that would come through the county.
The
So the county has the bus, and WMATA is completely different. You know, one of the roles I serve for the county is I represent the county on the WMATA board as alternate director. So, I mean, there's been a lot of conversation with regards to, you know, what does an effective regional mass transit system look like? And I think what we need to focus on is, what are the needs of our citizens at this time, who may not have their own means of transportation. So we need to provide safe transportation in the areas that they need that.
Okay. And the only other comment I had on the buy PGC marketing campaign, I think it's a great idea, is to make sure that that's, since it's retail and restaurants, is how do you make it consumer friendly? To your point, like an app or something, and then how do you advertise it so people have the app? And other companion apps like Yelp and things like that, somehow you can get tied into.
Completely agree.
Other questions for Tom, comments? Well, good work there to you and your committee. The economic recovery is every bit as important as everything else here. So thanks for the work and the recommendations there.
Absolutely. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. And now for the Government Operations Recovery Task Force, I forget who was going to provide that update.
I believe DCAO Tara Jackson. There she is. I see her. Thank you.
Oh, I see her now too. Ms. Jackson?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair. Thank you for the opportunity. As you know, Governor O'Malley is not with us this week, and so I will endeavor to make him proud as I present these quick wins. I'll start off by saying thank you to Deborah Patrick, who has kept us organized. We are a small but mighty group. So we're pleased with the work that we have done thus far. Our 4 areas of focus are remote work, really flexible work options, and a part of that would be remote work. The second would be digitization of documents and processes. The third would be continuity of operations plans and continuity of government, continuity of government plan. And the fourth, the modernization of customer-facing services. And so we have 1 or 2 quick win recommendations within each of those focus areas. As it relates to flexible work options, really our goal within the next several months is to make sure that we have robust policies in place as it relates to options for our employees. As you might imagine, when we had to go out quickly in March, we were challenged because we sent many employees home to telework. And although we had teleworking policies in place, we as a government did not necessarily encourage teleworking across the board. By way of example, we probably had about 200 employees that were teleworking in March. We now have more than 1,500. And so we need to revise and enhance our policies to make sure that we're able to make sure that we're adjusting and able to support those employees that are working from home. As well, we need to develop critical success factors so that we know we're able to measure really in a data-driven way the success of our teleworking. As it relates to digitization of documents and processes, through this pandemic, we have also realized that we have far too many paper processes. We are reliant too much on hard copy documents. And so with this quick win, we are endeavoring to look at 2 agencies that we believe are ready to move forward. As you know, you just can't digitize. You have to make sure that business processes are in place before you move everything, move all documents away from, move away from hard copy documents. We believe that the Department of Permitting, Inspections, and Enforcement is ready They are a customer-facing agency, and so we're going to try and move forward with them as it relates to the permit center. As well, we would like to move forward with OHRM. As you know, they're a service agency that really will, moving away from hard copies within that agency, will serve the rest of our agencies in the government. One of the things we heard as we surveyed our employees across government is teleworking is difficult. In fact, you cannot telework if you have to rely on hard copy documents that are housed in files in the offices. So our goal there is to move forward with 2 agencies, at least in part, and then to prepare a roadmap across government as it relates to a full and a comprehensive system of digitization. As it relates to our third priority area, it probably goes without saying that COOP and COG plans are integral to emergency management. And so we need to make sure that we refresh our plans. I think the Office of Emergency Management in January was just beginning to work with agency directors to try and update the COOP and COG plans, and they didn't get it done. And so we need to get that work done in short order. Obviously, we don't know how long this pandemic will last. And so our goal is to at least complete the continuity of operations plans by the end of the year. And that be a quick win. And those would then feed into the continuity of government, the overall continuity of government plan, which we hope to have complete by the beginning of next year. I'm sure this group knows that that would include making sure we identify essential functions of each agency, that we have succession plans in place, delegation of authority, continuity of facilities, and the list goes on. But that would be a quick win that we have for that focus area. And then lastly, with the modernization of customer-facing services, especially in the wake of COVID, we know that we need to provide services to our citizens that are effective and convenient. We want to make sure that citizens do not have to come into the building to get good service. And so in order to move down this path, and I'll say this, we have done, I really believe, a yeoman's job at moving to teleworking quickly and continuing to provide services to our community. But we can do better, of course. And so in that regard, we need an inventory. We need to know what customer-facing services are out there. So we will begin, hopefully, with performing that inventory, and then we'll be able to move on from there as it relates to the analysis of all of our customer-facing services. So that's what I have, and I certainly will entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Jackson? I did have one question on the remote work and moving to teleworking. I don't know whether your group looked at whether there were any technology challenges related to that, because you're putting a lot more strain, I guess, on the computer systems, the IT infrastructure and all that. And I don't know whether that came up as an issue or not.
It certainly has. And we've had our director of the Office of Information and Technology very involved in the process really since March. She is worried about, or concerned, I should say, about cybersecurity. And then there were just some very real challenges. Do all of our employees have laptops? Do they have cell phones? Should they be able to use their own cell phone or their own laptop? So we've had some very real challenges that we had to face. But in answer to your question, I think we're well on our way. And she continues, the director, to be involved in this process to make sure that we're not getting in front of the technology.
Or maybe something to consider as you're doing your recommendations, if there's something there that you particularly see that needs to be addressed, to incorporate that. I also like the call for, the revamp and refresh the continuity plans. I know Dr. Wright brought up the best practice, issue as well. And I think, as we do that review, also to help feed into refreshing those plans as well. So.
And we want to make sure really that they're user friendly. No need to have a 200-page document and folks don't know exactly what to do. And so our goal really is to get buy-in from the appointing authorities and not just have someone fill out the plan, but the appointing authority actually knows what is included in the plan and is an integral part of preparing that plan. And we really want to make sure we're going to focus on training, is what I should say, of the agency directors.
Other questions or comments for the government operations team?
Yeah, this is Artis. I have one, and this is really a enterprise risk management question. I know that with remote work, most organizations are particularly concerned, audit committees, auditors, and management around any special considerations with so many employees not being in the office, that it has the potential to compromise internal control issues. So just the question in terms of government operations, obviously we want employees working and remote, and it's great, but is there any attending to issues around that we may see in subsequent audits based on things that may have happened during this period?
Not specifically, other than what I've also already addressed as it relates to the work of the Office of Information and Technology. But I would love to maybe to work with you or to have a discussion with you around some of the specifics that you may recommend.
Yeah. Do we have a compliance officer for county government who really focuses in on enterprise risk management? And okay.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right, great. I'll send you a couple of articles, but happy to talk to you about it. It's a major risk area and everybody's managing it and looking at it now. There are a lot of devilment you can get into right now.
That's right. No,
right.
That's right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for that. Any other comments or questions? Ms. Jackson, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to Dr. Pines and the Education Recovery Subcommittee. Dr. Pines.
Thank you, Co-Chair Velasquez. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So first and foremost, I want to thank all the members of my committee. We had an incredible superstar education subcommittee. We were divided into 5 special focus areas. Resource allocation was number 1. Number 2, resetting the pre-K academic plan and delivery models. Number 3, expansion of online learning and technology supports. Number 4, rethinking opportunities and delivery models in post-secondary education. And number 5, closing the digital divide, optimizing secure technology. We had a number of speakers come through our subcommittee, but most importantly, I want to point out that Prince George's County Public School Systems, through the leadership of Dr. Alvin Thornton and Dr. Monica Goldson, are doing many of the things, and we are re-emphasizing some of those things in our early wins, quick wins, and actions for today. But the school system is on top of it, and it's strategically moving in the areas that are important for Prince George's County. So we have 11 actions for today, or quick wins. and I'm going to walk through all 11 briefly. Number one, aggressively seek all available education funding. And this is important even in this time of COVID-19 because there are enormous opportunities that are available to the county and to every constituent that represents education. There's the CARES Act. We're all aware of the CARES Act, but in the CARES Act, there's elementary and secondary school emergency relief funding for them. For community colleges, there's workforce development money available. The US Treasury and tutoring grant has money available. The US Treasury also has a technology grant for technology that enhances school systems' technology capacity. Even in our own state of Maryland, the governor's emergency education relief funding, K through 12 funding, which is part of the emergency aid as it relates to COVID-19 is available. And then finally, there's the standard fund from the Department of Education called GEAR, Fund Urban and Rural Broadband Competitive Grants that are available. But we think the county should aggressively move after all these opportunities because there's money to be had on behalf of the students of the county. So that was number one. Number two, expansion of the internet connectivity. Clearly, this is a problem that affects rural, urban, suburban Prince George's County. Our specific recommendations are as follows. Sponsor agreement with Comcast to provide Comcast Internet essentials to families that qualify based on need, usually provided, of course, to low-income families. We currently provide the service to them for free. Second, for the families who do not qualify for Comcast Internet essentials or live in an area with broadband service, Prince George's County Public School System has signed an agreement with Verizon to provide hotspots to our families in need, currently supply of about 2,500 hotspots still to be distributed throughout the county. This is clearly, this entire recommendation, number two, is an equity recommendation on behalf of the students and citizens of the county. Number three, similarly in the equity category, providing a computing device for all Prince George's County Public School System students. The nature of this recommendation is the name of increasing equity again, access to necessary technology throughout the county. While PGCPS is currently working on this effort, there's a reason to believe that the capacity will need to expand to accommodate for enrollment growth and those students who have yet to obtain a device or may need a device in the future. These include iPads, Chrome device, depending on the grade level in which the device will be used, and other technologies. Again, an equity issue for the county. Number four, this is another big problem, digital needs communication campaign in multi-languages, in multiple ways. Some folks don't look at email. Some folks don't get texts. So we have to go to community resources such as churches, community centers, and develop a comprehensive digital needs communication campaign to reach those populations. There was 4% of families in the county, which is approximately 5,000 students, who did not get communication relative to necessary educational content and the technology required because of a gap of communication, either language barrier or simply the modality of communication. That was an important issue. Number five, a wholly holistic approach to the socio-emotional well-being of students. As we all know, this environment that we're all currently in is incredibly distressing and has high level of mental stress to families based on work environment, based on school environment, online. And there's a need for guidance counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists, mental health professionals throughout the spectrum to be able to provide services to families so that they can get those services and help their students so that they can actually get educated. This is really a big issue. Now the county is moving in this direction. There are hubs throughout the county that allow these services to be delivered locally in a local community, but we need to expand it to be a bit more comprehensive. So that's really important. Number six, there needs to be a gap analysis done, kind of similar to the enterprise risk management analysis that was mentioned by Ms. Hampshire Cowan. And this is a gap analysis to ensure equity and access to online education. It's particularly important that this gap analysis identify any disparities in access by county residents, including by race, financial condition, and those with a health and disability challenge. Also, to be considered would be equity in having a suitable home environment for online learning. A real big issue has been that many families, because of care for elder care, many children in the environment, a small home environment, students have struggled to learn in those environments and need access to other environments so that they can learn even when they're online. So this is a gap assessment that needs to be performed across the county through multiple jurisdictions to make sure that we can provide the correct services to those families in need who need them. So that's number 6. Number 7, 24/7 access to online class material. We need to provide that from every school, elementary, middle, and high school, and also from community college and of course from colleges, so 4-year institutions. This definitely already happens in community colleges and 4-year institutions, but less happens at the K-12 level and pre-K level. So this is important to have the bandwidth, the capacity of storage to be able to provide this to all families at any time of the day, because there's a lot of asynchronous learning that's going on, and there's some synchronous learning as well, but people need to be able to learn when their time is available, and that's why this information needs to be available for all throughout the county. Number 8, reallocation of educational resources. Now, this is an innovative idea, so let me try to explain it. Obviously, we have an incredible group of K-12 teachers and K-12 educators broadly, as well as guidance counselors. Some people are more akin to teaching online, and others are more akin to teaching in person. So this is a reallocation of the execution of the educational mission, where what we're going to do is have some of our educators who are really great at teaching online, maybe they'll teach multiple classes. And those that are really good at teaching in person will stay focused on teaching in person to specific groups of students to really be more efficient as an entire county educational operation. So this is simply a reallocation of resources of human capital to execute the mission. And actually, we may find out that this could save some money, because we could actually use multiple people to teach online courses. We could even record those courses and have them delivered asynchronously to different student groups at different levels. And it may be a more efficient way to operate. So this is a really cool idea that came out of one of our groups. Number 9, teacher preparation partnerships. Another excellent collaboration among partners. So for example, Bowie State has a program with community colleges, as well as with some of the schools in the county, K-12 schools in the county, to provide teacher online preparation enhancement as a partnership. University of Maryland, my school, we have our College of Education works with many school systems in the county to provide free teaching online training for K-12 teachers to enhance the preparation and the delivery of the education material to their students. So this is a great thing to do, and it's easy and it's doable, and we have the partners within the county. Number 10, another no-brainer, expand the dual enrollment program for all to provide access an affordable way to get to a community college, to get to a 4-year institution, expand that so that students get multiple credit in multiple ways that makes their seamless transfer into the university environment easier for all and provides access and affordability for all. So that's an easy one. Number 11, addressing crisis with deliberate dialogue. And so this gets to the issue that we're in a crisis now. There are other financial crises that families have, and we need to use every form of communication to help them understand where they can get resources to help execute, again, the educational mission for their children, access to technology. Again, this is more about communication in the time of crisis. And we feel that we haven't done that well within the county, and hasn't been done well, quite honestly, in the state. But this is something that we need to focus on so that we can get the information to the families of interest, get the technology to the families of interest, and provide an online hotline for families to actually be able to have their students and families talk to someone who knows about the technology so that they can actually work with the technology to be educated. So this is our final recommendation. And we're excited about the future of the county and education going forward. So thank you for the opportunity to present. And I know I was fast. And also, I want to give a shout out to Madison, because she's fantastic as well.
Thank you.
Happy to answer any questions.
Dr. Pine, so again, this is Artist. The idea around a resource, tech support on technology, has there been any discussion around like a call center concept for parents? Yeah, because exactly. Parents are now the educators, and right. and I I know when my kids were in elementary, I didn't do so well with some of the math, the 5th grade math. And just that, how do we build that in to support and fill in given where we are now. We're looking at that.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Hampshire Cowan. That is an excellent point. So let me give you an example of what came up in our discussions. What we found out and talked to Dr. Golson, as you said in your favorite subject, math, a number of students in math were struggling online. And what came out of the discussion with Dr. Golson is a partnership where college young students can provide free tutorial services to students in Prince George's County in all areas of math. It could be algebra, let's just say high school, algebra 1, algebra 2, calculus, etc. And that is a service that could easily help supplement the work that's being done by the county, but be done by using young people at the colleges who are really versed in mathematics to provide free tutorial services. And that's going to happen literally this fall, which is a great partnership. Another area of a partnership, we, the University of Maryland, decided to work with Dr. Golson on providing calculus to those schools that had a need for calculus at no charge to the high school students. And we would provide the delivery of all the material. We would train a teacher at that particular high school, and we provide tutorial resources for the students who are in those courses at 4 or 5 different high schools. And it again be at no charge to the county, and they would get the dual enrollment credit as a need to cover that math deficit to get people advanced into their careers going into college. That was something that we, again, through this discussion as a partnership. So now finally getting point to your hotline. That's actually was one of the major discussions that we had, that couple things, that it needed to be multilingual and that we needed to educate parents about the technology needs that they needed to have. And then also students who needed to understand how to use the software to actually learn better through the educational modality of online. And so the hotline does multiple things. It communicates to parents, but it also communicates to the student who needs to understand how to more effectively use the software to execute educational learning. And so we talked about that the county needs to develop that kind of hotline or online capability for the community.
Those are all great. I just, I always look at deficits. I'm sorry, that's kind of what I do. So one of the things that I'm a little concerned about, my first work out of law school was as a prosecutor. And so when we engage people in volunteering with kids, it's my hope that we don't make it so complicated that people can't get through the process to be able to help. And so concurrently, we need to look at an expedited but thorough system for vetting when we're engaging volunteers, with young people.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. One of the concerns that came out of our committee was there's a group of homeless families and homeless students. And they're part of that 4% that I had mentioned earlier in my discussion about we were not able to reach 4% of the families, which is about 5,000 students. And many of those students are actually homeless families. And if we don't find a way to reach them, we're going to lose these kids. And so that was a big concern of ours, and trying to figure out multiple ways of using the community to connect with these families, give that expert communication at the level that they needed so that they can advance themselves, even if they still remain homeless. So, but the problem is there's a real concern over that, and that's 4% of the families in Prince George's County.
And just to echo Dr. Pines' point, we also have looked into and brought in the CEO of Prince George's County Memorial Library Systems to come and partner with us and discuss around some of these ideas around, how do we access some students who don't have optimal learning environments at home? Is there a way to create an alternative modality where they can perhaps come to a memorial library system location, or even, have different access to potentially their library? I know they have an extensive hub themselves through the system of recorded classes and tutorials that students can access if they, perhaps they aren't as receptive to the teaching of one professor or one teacher. And maybe it just takes that alternative perspective of another voice to really break through that wall. So I just wanted to emphasize that partnership is occurring and currently underway as well.
And just to re-echo Madison's comment, also that the libraries could become a safe space for students who don't have a safe space at home, or it's just too crowded at home, and they need a place where it's quiet to learn. The libraries represent that opportunity.
On the, you'd mentioned you have 2,500 hotspots from, I think I got the number right, from Verizon. Did that meet the need that you saw for hotspots, or was that a fraction of the need, or?
I mean, it makes the need for right now, but there's a belief because of that 4% of the families who have not been contacted, that there's another 5,000 students who need a hotspot out there. But this is for the ones that we have identified, not counted at 4%. So there still is a need, yes, to answer your question.
And does the same need exist with the providing the computing devices, the iPads and the Chromebooks, or?
Yes, it would be the same for the same population group, yes.
But we have met the need for, we've been able to meet the need for those we've identified.
Correct.
That's great. Yeah. And on the multi-language campaign, what languages are you looking at?
Well, in Prince George's County, Spanish, French Creole, because of the large Haitian population in our community. And those were the two major ones that popped up that I'm aware of.
Okay, great. Other questions or comments to Dr. Pines?
I do have a question, Dr. Pines. Was there discussion about the need for multiple devices within a single household? So if a family had more than one child, how does that?
Yeah, I think there wasn't a discussion on that topic, but yes, that's definitely a relevant point, Dr. Dukes. But there was also a discussion on, and I'm sure you've had this at your homes, where multiple people are using the Wi-Fi at the same time. And because of the bandwidth limitations, some students are on and the other student who's supposed to be on at the same time are not on. I mean, and I actually don't know how to rectify that problem without going to Comcast and asking for further capability. Or maybe that's if you have four, because there are obviously people with 4 children in the public school system at the same time, and they all need to be accessed at the same time. And so the only way to do it is maybe to have a hotspot where it's accessing maybe a different part of the bandwidth. Maybe it's on a Verizon network and the other one's on a Comcast network. But that came up, and it is still a problem, and it is a problem still throughout the county in many families where multiple children or multiple people can't get online at the same time. So, but definitely it's an important point that we need to resolve.
Thank you.
Other questions for Dr. Pines? Great. Well, we've gone through each of the 5 subcommittees, heard the quick wins recommendations. Before we move forward to talk about advancing them, I just open the floor one last time for anything on any of the 5 committees, any comments anyone wants to make on any of the recommendations that you've heard across any of the 5.
Mr. Chair, this is Joseph Wright again. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge from the health recovery team the effort of a few individuals, Ryan Middleton, Carrie Ann Pert, among a number of other individuals from the health department who certainly did yeoman's work in getting us to the finish line on this phase of our task, and also in her absence, Linda Turner. So I just wanted to make sure that I recognize those individuals for the support that they have lent us over the course of the last couple of months.
No, thanks, Dr. Wright, for doing that. And I think Dr. Dukes and I know all the subcommittee chairs as well, recognize the great assistance we've gotten from not just Prince George's County workers, but also all the folks who have volunteered to give their time and their expertise. And I think that's really reflected in not just the quantity of quick win recommendations, but the quality of them, the creativity, the breadth that they cover. My compliments to each of the groups. I think we've done a great job in helping us collectively as Prince George's Forward Task Force come up with a set of actions that we could take today, if you will, that are really going to be able to provide the county and the county executive with some great input, some great perspective as she and her staff look at these and think about how they can use these to help move Prince George's County forward. Before we move to a motion and a vote to move these forward to the whole task force, I just wanted to see if Dr. Dukes had any comments she wanted to make.
As I've been listening intently, there are a couple of things that I noted, that there clearly is a connectivity and a synergy across the work. When you think about equity and communications, innovation, how we're filling gaps and how we're understanding what the gaps are. So even as the work groups have met independently in many ways, it is clear that you all are thinking about some of the same things from the perspective of the specific focus areas. I will also say that I've had the opportunity, some of you have noticed it and others have not, to log into some of your meetings and just to listen quietly. And I'm not necessarily staying for the entire hour or two, but just listening in, so as Dave and I do our work as co-chairs, we know where we might have to ask some very specific questions or lean on the support team because we think that there's some additional support that you may need. So we want to thank you for that. I think that today we've heard from each of the 5 work groups, and there are 47 quick wins that once we are able to take the vote to advance, that we'll be meeting with County Executive also Brooks and Chief of Staff Russell, and looking forward to taking them to the full task force on August the 19th.
Great. So with that, let me call for a motion from the executive committee to move these quick wins or actions today forward to the full task force at our meeting on August 19th. So do I have a motion?
Don't move.
Second.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any objections or abstentions? If none, the motion moves forward with the unanimous vote. So thank you again. Thank you all for the tremendous work to pull this big list of some really good recommendations together. And with that, let me turn it back over to Dr. Dukes for any closing remarks.
Thank you so much. And what we do want to inform the committees, the work groups, and all of those who are supporting it is that our next meeting will be Wednesday, August the 19th at 2:00 p.m. And that you can go to, for the public, you can go to the princegeorgesforward.com landing page so that you will be able to log in. In addition to moving, we will ask each of the co-chairs to again speak about these quick wins to the full task force. So the full task force will have the knowledge of what's coming from each of the individual subgroups or working groups. We'll also have a presentation by Ernst & Young, EY, and they'll talk to us about some of the best practices within each of these subcommittee areas that are occurring across the country, across the United States. So we're not in this work alone. We hope that we can learn from what other states and counties and municipalities and cities are doing. And conversely, we want them to be able to learn from us as well. So we look forward to being together again on August the 19th. During this next week coming up, I want to let each of the co-chairs know that I will be getting in touch with you just to have some brief conversation. And hopefully my name will come up on your cell when I call, so you'll know that it's me. And if not, Madison, Ryan, Linda, Deborah, we know a number of people who can make sure that we can make those connections. So want to thank you as well for your work. This is work, quite frankly, from the heart, because everyone who is doing this work and leading this work are volunteers, and we do it because we care about and we love Prince George's County. So with that, what I will do is again, thank everyone for being on the call. We'll call the meeting to a close. I don't think, do we need a motion for adjournment?
Wouldn't hurt.
Then I will say, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved, Madam Chair.
I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. And I'm hearing no objections because I won't ask for any. So listen, thank everyone. Thank you for the great work, and we'll be connecting soon. Thank you to the public for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.